Hey everybody, welcome to Ronline Report. My guest today, very special guest today on the Ronline Report, 7-time 212 Olympia champion, owner of the world's famous Dragon Lair Gym in Las Vegas, just celebrated its 3-year anniversary. He's got all kinds of other things going on. He's a dad, he's a husband. Please welcome all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, originally from Wales, Flex Lewis. How are you, Flex?
My man, well, what an intro. Thank you, Ron. Man, I truly appreciate it, mate. You and I go way back, and I'm glad to jump on you, talk to you at any point in time, and just have some good conversation that we haven't had for quite some time. So I'm glad we're doing it now.
Yeah, we haven't talked since, well, MD's hasn't even been gone quite a full year yet, but that was the last time we spoke. So
yeah,
there's been some developments in a lot of things in sports, but guys, subscribe, like, share, ring that bell so I can take that away. All right, great. So I want to start with this crazy injury that happened while you were on vacation. You were where you in the Caribbean somewhere? Was it Bahamas?
As in the Cayman Islands.
Cayman Islands.
Mm-hmm.
So because I tore my tricep falling down, breaking a fall, which was a goofy way to do it. But man, you were. This is what I know from your post. You were at a bar to watch a UFC fight. Stop me when I mess up. You're in a stall that where the door latch didn't work. And here's where I get, because, I go in the stall to pee or poop sometimes. It depends. I don't know if you were sitting on the toilet or if you were facing the toilet to urinate and had your arm out behind you. Which was it?
Well, that sounds weird. I was actually, and I'll tell you this. Okay. Yeah. I have this weird superstition, whatever you want to call it. It's not superstition, but I will not pee in a urinal just because I'm traumatized from all the expos that I've done all around the world of people taking selfies. Yeah. Ron, you know the stories. Many have probably been leaked online, but I've seen fights happen over it. On this occasion, through the many occasions, shall I say, I've now just gone into a stall. It's easier. So on this story, I'm a big boxing fan. I'm a big MMA fan. There was the Ryan Garcia fight. I had just done my appearance on the Cayman Islands. And I asked the promoter if there was a place on the island that was playing it. And he said he had a friend or partner or whatever it was in this bar. And I was like, nah, I'm not going there. And he assured me a Friday night on the Cayman Islands is the big night. On Saturday, everything closes early because of church the next morning. So nobody would be at the bar. Okay. I walk into this place and it's a freaking fan fest. All these British guys there. And I had to turn it to Flex. So, of course, I go to the restroom. The lock is broke and some guy put his foot through the fucking door as I'm pissing and holding the door. So it's not exactly, a Branch Warren story, a Ron Harris story, or Lee Priest story, but it's Flex Lewis's story. So suffice to say, it's 15 weeks. I don't know if you can see that somewhere.
That was your left arm. Yeah, I see it. Yeah. Oh, you got we have the same scar, but I tattooed over mine.
Yeah, you got a cool tattoo. It's been honestly a blessing in disguise, Ron, because I just prior to Brazil, and I'm going over there to support Hafa for the Honor Classic Brazil.
Rafael Brandao, if people don't know who that is. Okay.
Yeah. I started getting back into the gym again because I knew I was going to be training over there with him for the duration of time I was in Brazil. And I fell in love with it again. Like it was, that part of that bodybuilder I really had to kill off, because that urge to kind of get back on stage is never dormant. So I had to really work on that. So kind of not falling out of love with the gym, but not going in there as much. And I got back in there, started training again. I blew up, went to Brazil. There's some footage of me and Hafa training together with the tops off. Obviously, he's like a week out from the show. But we had a blast. And I came back to the US, so motivated, back into the gym, and literally that was the 2 weeks later when I tore the tricep.
Wow.
So, and this just put a brakes on things. And there was so much going on in my life, Ron, to be honest with you. Adding training into the mix and getting back into all them endeavors. I wouldn't have been able to fully focus on some of the business stuff that I had on the table. So right now, had it not been for the accident, I wouldn't have been able to put focus into these other things and also get my head around the rehab element of things, because I truly had to form the mentality of as if I was doing the Mr. Olympia and attacking the rehab phase just as such. So Yeah, it's a journey.
So the last time we talked, you would sort of abandon the idea of competing again because due to a lot of digestive issues you were going through, you couldn't really get all the food down to do what you wanted to do to move on to open, to put the size on that you wanted to put on. Had that changed, and were you starting to think of a comeback again?
I wasn't thinking of a comeback. I just started having another target about getting into the gym and putting on some size. And when I turn that switch, it's increasing the food, because I don't have an appetite on. Like, I could go all day. I've actually done 2 48-hour fasts in the last 6 months. And they were at ease. The first, I would say the first 20 hours I had, like the 18-hour, 24-hour mark.
Yeah.
But once you go over that hump, then you can see the benefits. So to then increase my food and start eating again for bodybuilding, or shall I say going over to Brazil, I just structured my day out and I ate accordingly. I sometimes ate instinctually, but I wanted to make sure I had X amount of meals in that day. And digestion-wise, I don't have an issue anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So for me to really focus on healing my stomach, I don't think, again, I'm out of the woods, but I'm tremendously better from when I was competing, because the influx of food that's going into your body, there's no time to let that body heal. Now, us bodybuilders, if we miss one meal a day, it's detrimental. So having the conversation with the doctor, be like, hey, you've got to stop eating, the frequency that you're eating, maybe 2 meals a day, just so we can see what's really going on. And then they want the liquids. I couldn't get my head around that. And I knew once I went down that road, I was kind of doomed, because even the doctors and all these multiple doctors I spoke about with all these specialists in the GI space, nobody had an answer but to stop eating. So right now, if I was to even think about having a comeback, I just got that slap from God, right? So not to say I wasn't thinking about anything when I started getting back into the gym again. We're all competitors, right? The element of thinking, can you still do this, is always going to be in the back of my mind, even your mind. And anybody who's been an athlete and has retired, or you start comparing yourself, right, to who's on that stage right now, and being like, okay, if I give myself a solid year and a half, what can I look like? But that's just a selfish standpoint. The workload that goes into that, the dedication, the sacrifice, and the selfishness that goes into just that mindset alone, aside from everything else, it's hard for me to go back to that guy, because I knew what I had to do to become the champ and then defend it 6 other times. So to go into the open class, that was a whole different commitment, and one that I wanted so bad, but unfortunately, it was one of them stories that will continue to be talked about, I guess, from the fans' mouth. So I kind of left my legacy, and that was what I wanted to do when I came to the United States, was leave a legacy in bodybuilding, and I truly feel I've done that, and I've done it the right way too, and exited with an undefeated record.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, the last time we spoke, or maybe it was close to that, where I think it was the last time we spoke, and you said this was when the digestive issues were really running rampant, and you were expressing sort of a lot of disappointment that you couldn't continue with that goal of going after the Mr. Olympia title. And I'll be honest, Flex, in my head at the time, because I know Rami was champ at the time we were having that conversation. This is a 300-pound, 5'10", whatever he is guy. I'm thinking he was never going to win Mr. Olympia, Flex Lewis. As much as I love your physique and I know how good you are, I'm thinking there's no way he's going to win. Then the next year, Hadi Choopan wins. I'm like, oh, okay. And Derek Lynch wins. Like, shit, okay. I guess Flex actually, now that I think about it, with the current situation and the way that they're looking at athletes of every size, shape, Flex Lewis could absolutely have been Mr. Olympia. And, I just want to say, I feel bad that I didn't have confidence in you until I saw Hadi win. And I'm like, shit, if Hadi can win the Olympia, because I'm going to pull up some infamous footage from 2017 here.
Yeah.
This is you and Hadi side by side, and it was Korea, right? The Asian Grand Prix.
It was Korea, and that was the year. That was 2017, and everybody wanted me to pull out of that show, because that was the year that Dallas passed away. So we're talking like a month later, and I remember arriving in Korea, and I was 210 pounds. Now, if you know anything about me stepping on stage, I kind of go to the week of the show, 215. And I kind of suck in the last final pounds with water manipulation and carb adjustment and everything else. Neil was not here for this show. I think he was in a show with William Bonac. So I went there alone, and I kind of, which is unlike me, I kind of locked myself in the room, and there's a lot of tears from the Dallas situation. But I've not really talked about this time too much because it was a dark time, and I kind of brushed that 2017 year off by not being who I know I can be. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why I decided to come back in 2018 and just make sure that I ended my career on a bang and in the best form. And whoever was there was there. I was going to end my career at the Mr. Olympia stage, and so much so, we had the chiming in of different athletes, come to the show after the Olympia and I will meet you here. It's like, listen, I've said this for a whole year. Mr. Olympia is where I'm going to end my career. I'm not getting choked up. Mr. Olympia is where I will end my career. And of course, coming close to the show, you start seeing stuff. And I'm like, I'm not an athlete too. It's like, okay, keep talking shit. I'll come to that country. I will. And what my wife done was book a vacation literally a week after the Mr. Olympia, because she knows I'm not going to say no to her request. So I done the Olympia. I was still buzzing. I was like, I'm jumping on a plane to Korea or whatever else. I think it was Korea at that point in time. And no, we're going to Jamaica. So I literally ran. That was probably like and I joke about this now, one of my worst vacations, because I swole up like a tick on the beach because I was so depleted to make that 212 class. As you know, my body hates it. I inflated in the sun lounges on Mecca Beach. So I couldn't do anything. I couldn't swim. I was so pumped up. But anyways, my wife had her vacation, right? Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't book this interview intentionally on this day, but today happens to be the 7th anniversary. And the reason I know is because it came up in my Facebook memories. And it's just, this is a minor eerie coincidence, but there's a gym that's like 45 minutes away from me that I don't go to very often because I'm lazy. I don't want to drive an hour to go to the gym. And I was at that gym training legs with my buddy when we got the news about Dallas. It was August 22nd. And last night, my son asked me, hey, can we go to General Fitness in Fall River tomorrow to train back? I'm like, sure. And when it came up in my memories, I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly where I was 7 years ago today when that happened. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, crazy 7 years. Doesn't feel like 7 years. Feels fresher than that. But, in my gym, as you've seen, we keep the legacy alive. We got the Dallas McCarver posing room. We've got photos of Dallas in the lobby of the gym. We've got his belts up. And, he will always remain part of my, ecosystem, my DNA and the gym itself, because we train hard every day, but more so it was the other side that I got to meet of Dallas outside of the gym. Big teddy bear, great with my kids, just a sponge of knowledge, just a young, hungry lion cub who wanted to be good and then great at something. So, he filled a massive part of energy in my life when he was here on this earth. And it's sad to talk 7 years later as if it happened last year, but he's a good kid. Everybody who met him will all attest. And this is why we're still speaking about him 7 years on.
Yeah. And that was the original Dragon's Lair in, was it Fort Lauderdale? Where was it?
Boca Raton.
Boca Raton, Florida. Yeah. Same place where the Redcon Gym is now. Yeah. When it was really a private gym back in those days, you had to be your buddy to basically get in there at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was. And it was, for me, it was an invitation only. No friends. Pissed off a lot of people there because, when you get your own private gym, everybody's like, oh, I'm your buddy. Oh, I live across the street to you. Can I train in your gym? But I think that was the special thing about it, right? Obviously there was a lot of people that may be offended that they couldn't get into the gym. But at the end of the day, I created it because that was my church. That was where I worked. That's where I sweated, bled. It was everything that I created it for, and that was to win and defend the title. It wasn't there for me to support my buddies, lifting goals. It was distraction. And I created a very militant mindset and also a militant camp by bringing athletes in to train in and around me to keep me on my toes. You know, the Rafael Brandos of this world that came in, the hungry lion cubs, and look where he's at right now. You know, it's that energy when you're turning up every single day as the champ. You know, gets even more so inspired when you've got somebody who's young and hungry that you can see yourself in, pushing you as much as you're pushing them. So it served both purposes, and it was a blessing to have that. And I appreciate it probably this much more now, because when I was living through their moments, you don't really kind of take heed, right? But now looking back, it was a magical time, and it's the evolution of where the gym is right now. And this is why we're in the incredible city of Las Vegas. And this B-roll, Ron, I woke up drunk, okay? That's what the fuck was that about, Ron?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the place you have, the huge, amazingly equipped gym in Las Vegas now, Dragon's Lair. I was there a couple years ago. You were flying in from a contest or something today. I missed you by like an hour. But I love that place, and it's become the new Mecca. It's become what Gold's Venice used to be years ago. This is where people from all over the world, bodybuilder, pro bodybuilders, amateurs, fans, everybody, when they go to Vegas, this has become one of the places they have to go. I got to make sure I get to Dragon's Lair when I'm in Las Vegas. And you just had your 3-year anniversary party.
We did.
There's Ramondino and Flex Wheeler. So, man, I mean, Sergio, you have to take some pride in the fact that there aren't many gyms left in this world anymore that are like destinations where people really want to visit and train and see who they can see and be seen by. And there's Dennis Wolf. Your Dragon's Lair has become that in kind of a very short time.
It's made by athletes for athletes, right? So you kind of know what you require as an athlete going into a Miss Olympia, into your first bodybuilding show, whatever show it is. It's going to be your Miss or Miss Olympia because you're training for it. So I've created a haven for bodybuilders, and I truly appreciate the correlation to, you know, as a Mecca. I feel like we're still climbing that ladder to get much more improved. But I can only remember or only talk from my own experiences, and getting off the plane, coming to Los Angeles and walking in a Gold's Gym for the first time. It was a magazine that just opened up in front of me, and it was tremendous. You know, that 19-year-old kid just was transported into these magazines that he was reading since he was 15, and seeing these celebrities, athletes, top bodybuilders, basketball players, boxers, all in and around one another. I was just blown away because everything was so tangible. They weren't in the magazines anymore. Again, I'm coming here as that immigrant mentality, and everything is just glass half full. So to now have a gym built on all these multiple gyms that I've visited throughout the world, taken a little bit of everything, and what I've done is just plant the seeds in my own gym and hope that the athletes would love what we've done and soon to do. So we are very conscious of who we are, what we represent. And me coming from the Mr. Olympia stage, you know, I wanted to make sure that all these athletes had that place, that home, that they could feel, you know, that they're part of something. There's a culture, there's an energy, and also there's a good I've already kind of used the word culture, but there's a good like community of support, because everybody's doing a show, right? There's somebody in the show that's 3 weeks out, 1 week out, 12 weeks out, whatever it is. There's so many multiple different levels, but everybody's in support of one another. Everybody goes to, you know, support each other in different shows. And that's all just come from the Dragon's Lair. And then we've got world champion powerlifters, you know, we've got the UFC athletes, we've got the football players, we've got all these different people. And then you've got the presidents of big, you know, sporting organizations that are coming in from boxing to the UFC.
That's right.
It's turned into something much bigger than I ever could imagine. But again, when you have that bar, you keep on raising it, right? So right now we're raising the bar higher than even what I could imagine. And I'm a big, big dreamer, hence why I moved from Florida to Las Vegas in COVID to build this gym.
Right.
So I seen the vision, and I really appreciate the fact that people now are part of the community and coming in from all over the world with their suitcases to the gym just to train before they check in, Ron.
Yeah. I mean, Olympia week, I'm sure the last couple Olympia weeks have been just insane at your place, because I see the Instagram reels and it's just wall to wall bodybuilders in that place.
Yes, it's an expo, I would say.
Yeah.
Would be an understatement. But what's great about it is like you have all these little pocket areas, and you've got Team Brazil, and they set up a camp, and they're there all day, like 15 hours. Then you've got Italy, then you've got these other different countries, and all they're missing is a flag. That's it. But they set up camps, and they're there all day. A lot of these athletes are coming in to obviously to compete, but also support their fellow competitors, and they're just enjoying that experience as well as seeing their friends on the Olympia stage. So they're getting to see top pros coming in and take their pictures, and maybe they're not being able to do it at an expo because the lines are too big, but we got so many athletes that call this place their home. The Olympia week is going to be a massive value for any fan that is looking forward to coming to the Dragon's Lair.
Right on. So let's start talking about Olympia. Now, when you were the reigning 212 champ, 7 years running, you did not cross over and try to go into open because you wanted to make your mark and leave a legacy and really establish the division, which was in its infancy when you were one of the OGs. You were on that Mount Rushmore that we talk about a lot of times of the 212. 4 guys. I have you. This is my Mount Rushmore, because you can only have 4. It's Flex Lewis, it's David Henry, Kevin English, and Jose Raymond. That's my Mount Rushmore of 212. Would yours be the same, or would you have any different?
It would be what was yours again?
So I had Flex, Kevin English, David Henry, and Jose Raymond. That's my 4.
I'm not giving my Mount Rushmore. I'm gonna upset too many people. I don't mind giving you Olympia predictions. How about that?
Okay, that's fair enough. But the mentality was back then, I think, with a lot of the guys that were in my Mount Rushmore and a few others like Guy Cisternino, Mark Dugdale, there's Eduardo Correa. You had a very strong, established group of 212 guys, and they were proud to be in 212, and they weren't seeing it as a stepping stone to the open ranks, where we've seen guys in the last few years, obviously most notably the past 2 Olympia winners, Hadi and Derek. We've also seen Sean Clarita jump into an open show. John Jewett has moved on permanently the open ranks. Tony O'Burton has moved on. Yeah. So it seems to be less of a – I don't want to put the 212 – I love the 212 division, but I don't see the glamour in it where – see, here's the thing. Do you think the 212 division was more exciting when we had someone like yourself, who was basically the Ronnie Coleman or the Phil Heath, who held the title for years and years and years and was sort of looked on as this unbeatable standard of perfection or of excellence? Whereas now we see the title changing hands a lot more frequently, almost every year. We don't have a dominant champion. So if you're a fan, and you are a fan, which would you prefer, to see the same dominant champion winning, or would you like to see it changing hands often?
As a fan, I just want to see the best guy win. I've seen athletes who have, let's take Sean, for example. When I met Sean, would I've ever said he'd become Mr. Olympia? And he knows this in all respects. I met him when he was like 160 something. Yeah. Could I see into the future? I mean, think of what the betting odd Sean Clarita would be in Vegas if you had said this guy in many years is going to win the Mr. Olympia 212. And I think Sean has surpassed everybody's expectations, but he had the vision, he had the dream, right? So, but we're talking, a different story with Keon, but with Keon, again, his drive and his determination, he was written off many times. He was called lazy, this, that, and the other, and it took him some time for that switch to happen. He's talked about it. He's talking about it on my podcast. And when that switch happened, he turned into this athlete that everybody else seen in him, and now he sees it in himself. There's a different conversation. There's a confidence, and I've got to see that guy truly evolve in front of me too. So, but we're talking about the two horses in the race, and I say this with all respects. There's 2 guys who are battling for this year's title, and it's out of them two. Everybody else, obviously you got Angel coming in the mix. Unfortunately, Oleg had the injury and he's out. He's always a force. Yeah. Where we got in the mix there? We got Kerith. Yeah. And with these guys, here's the thing with the industry we're in right now, and I'm going to try to answer this question based on my kind of thoughts on how the industry is right now. When I was competing, it was the magazine days. There was a secrecy that they wanted you to kind of not leak anything out, don't post anything. There was no social media. If you had a shocking photo, we don't want to post it for you, right?
Yeah.
I was in that space with 2 feet at one point in time. Then social media happened. And then I had 1 foot in one world, 1 foot in the other. Of course, we all know, we just mentioned at the beginning of the show, all these magazine publications folded because of social media kind of taking that big spot from them.
Yeah.
And I love print era, and I also love social media era. But if you are not social media savvy right now in 2024, and you're not creating a fan base outside of you just posting a side chest and a most muscular on your page, you have no fan engagement. You're going to have fans that interact with you on social media. Back then, we were just trying to get used to social media, and then you kind of welcome it as it evolved. But the evolution of some of these guys being known will be so much better if they're a little bit more savvy on social media, making themselves more seen, more known. A lot of these guys that are qualified for the 212 class overseas, you need to get on the plane. You got to be in front of Steve. You got to be training at the gym. You got to do photo shoots over here. You got to market yourself, do collaborations, train all these. These are all new terms and things that are now part of that ecosystem in every division. And Keon and Sean are the only two guys that are just pushing the 212, like with all content. Sean has his mystique to him. He's kind of a little bit of the old school version of where I came from as well. We covered up. You don't really get to see him. And when you kind of do, it's like, holy shit. And then he puts his 5X clothes back on. And with Keon, he's the complete opposite. He's learned to show off a little bit more of his off-season look and get comfortable in his own skin and show what he's lifting, talk on camera, because that wasn't all him, and that wasn't Sean either. But they've had to learn, because of the championship status, or being the second in line, to talk as if you're the champion long before you are. And a lot of these guys, they're lost in the sauce because they're not doing so. So this is the world we're in right now, Ron. We have to, as an athlete in the sport of bodybuilding, have social media presence. Outside of that, standing on stage and winning a trophy isn't going to cut it.
So as you said, it's not a two-man race. There's a lot of great guys going into this 212 Olympia, but Keon and Sean obviously is the past two champions, and the fact that it came so close last year, I didn't know who was going to win until Bob said, "You're new." I was like, "Oh shit!" And me and the guy next to me, Big Mike Cox, we looked at each other and I think we said, "Oh shit," at the same time, because I thought Sean did enough. I mean, I love both physiques, but they're apples and oranges, two completely different looks. How did you see it? Because you had a seat right up front. Where did you personally have a favorite, or did you see someone winning that didn't win last year? What was going through your mind at that moment?
Again, I try to keep. I have relationships with both, right? Obviously with Sean, as I mentioned, I've competed with Sean, traveled around the world with him, and now I get to see Keon every single day in my gym training. There's a relationship on both sides. So when I look at judging, you got to be unbiased. And in all truth, it was a battle. I wasn't there. I wasn't there, Ron. Yeah, I wasn't there to see the 212. So I cannot give my viewpoint. I'm one of these guys that, okay, if you ask me the question, am I reluctant to answer? In some cases, if I was there, I would answer. But in this case, all I went by was internet opinions, internet posts. And in all truth, it was divided, I felt, throughout the line, where you had your fans that were cheering for Sean and cheering for Keon regardless. But then you look at the pundits who are educated, they were having a difficult decision on who they had winning. Some for Sean, some for Keon. But again, this is what this year's Olympia is going to bring in the 212 class. It isn't that one favorite. It goes back to that original question. Do you want a dominant champion, or do you want to have a battle every single year? And when I was competing in the 212 class, they were always hyping up another athlete, right? You had Eduardo, you had anybody who won the Mr. USA, Aaron Clark, then you had Jose Raymond, and then you had all these other athletes, and then the comebacks of others, and it's all storylines. But I don't see it this year. I don't see any type of like, hype. I don't know if it's because there's not interest. There's not enough interest coming out to the 212 class. I don't know, but I can't answer that question, So whatever it is, these athletes need to start pulling up their socks and becoming a little bit more vocal, because there's a way of selling the show, and right now I'm not seeing it from many other athletes outside of Keon and Sean. But one athlete I do want to give a shout out to, and he's been doing very well in his career. Francisco, a little brother, he calls himself Mini Flax. And a quick little side story for Mini Flax over there. I remember him every single year flying out to the Mr. Olympia, standing in line with his mum, and every time I met him, he would bawl his eyes out on my shoulder. And I have all these years of photos of us together. So it's very prideful for me now, in the shoes I'm sitting in right now, in the seat I'm sitting in, to now see this young little brother of mine go from the fan at the Mr. Olympia to now being on that Mr. Olympia stage and having his own fan base lining up for him. So a very beautiful full circle moment for me, very prideful to see what he's been able to accomplish. And again, it's all the mindset, right? And he's been told more times that he wasn't going to make it than he was, told that he was. So very proud of that kid. Very proud of him.
Yeah, I met him at the Olympia Amateur probably 10 years ago. He's still in his 20s. So he's probably he couldn't have been more than like 20 or 21 at the most. Just like when I first met you, I think you were like 21. It was your first Olympia, maybe. And
you snuck me in.
Yeah. I love seeing that progress and that evolution of, these people. It's been a wild ride watching you from those days till now.
Yeah.
All the things you went from this kid. I think you were in Los Angeles, like barely scraping by. You had no money at all, to, the success that you've worked hard for and enjoyed since then. It's cool to see Francisco go from that little kid that Patrick Choi's been his coach this whole time.
Yep.
But to see the evolution of that physique, and he just won Texas. I wish this kid. I hope he gets first call out. I don't see anybody outside the top two aside of the Keon and Sean. I think that's top two again. Yeah. I don't know which way it's going to play out, but I hope he gets up there with Angel and Carrot in that top five.
Yeah. And that top five, and I want to make sure I put my respects to the athletes in the top five. I don't want it to sound any, disrespectful in any way. Yeah, that's how I see the judging element of things in the top two. Outside of that, every athlete that I have in my head, and we've mentioned already, is going to be battling out for that. And truly, I am humbled if anybody shocks me in bodybuilding. Because of social media, this is the detriment side of social media. We get to see everybody before they even hit the stage. So there's never a shock factor. Now, there's some athletes that I've not seen with my eyes, and on social media, they're very impressive. So I really hope that there's athletes that are in this list that truly blow my mind, whether they break into that top five or they mix it up in that top two. I love seeing athletes have their time. And I've also been talked about, as you remember, Ron, I haven't been talked about in that top five before too. So I love being the underdog as much as I was the champion. So I hope that everybody who is in that 212 class that isn't in my social media presence or I am, shall I say, be made aware of. Yeah. I hope that they really make me aware of who they are in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'd love to see somebody who's not on our radar at all just come out of nowhere and shock us and go, wow, did not see that coming. This guy is awesome.
I love it.
All right. Let's before we get into the Mr. Olympia, Big Ramy, do you have any insight? Do you know if he's done? Because if he was getting ready for the show now, I think we would have heard about it by this point. And I
don't know where Big Ramy is, because at one point in time, Nilo is going to coach him.
Yeah. And
they had that conversation and communication. It's been, I think that has been the detriment to his kind of coaching side of things, from what I hear. I don't obviously not on here to be fucking gossip girls, but I don't. You hear things, and knowing and hearing are two different things. So
Right.
whatever he is in the world, I just hope that guy is happy. He was able to reach the top of our world's Mount Vesuvius, and become the king. And he's just disappeared. And I just find it strange. The guy is very well loved. He had that era of learning English. Everybody fell in love with him, and then he became like one of the faces for the IFBB. Anywhere he went around the world, and he was able to win the title a few years after that. And the last couple of years has just been silence, and it's a shame because a lot of fans, including myself, would love to see him more. He's a gentle giant. I know he's a family guy as well, but I hope he's happy and healthy. That's the only thing I do hope, and he's enjoying life. If he is retired, then I hope he's in a good place. But outside of that, if he's making the comeback, it's goes back to that question earlier, right? It's not good to hide away from social media.
Seriously. So, all right. So let's go with the two top guys, the challengers for the title. There's a few awesome guys, but obviously Hadi and Derek are the favorites. Derek's the reigning champ. Last year when it came down, you weren't there, but that was an even more of a case of, I don't know who's got this. I had no idea which way. I could have flipped a coin. I would have been very happy if Hadi had kept the title for a second year in a row. I was happy for Derek that he got the title. And this year, I think we saw the way Hadi looked at the Arnold Classic USA and UK a couple weeks later. Spectacular version of Hadi. I wasn't counting this guy out for a minute, of course. Mm-hmm. But it's going to come down to them again, I feel. And I don't know which way it's going to go. You don't know which way it's going to go. But they both have tremendous strong points that the other one doesn't have. They both have weak points that the other one doesn't have. In your mind, how do you see this matchup?
Yeah. It's a matchup. It's one of them apples and oranges. It really goes back to that same conversation with Keon and Sean. And, Hadi brought a very impressive package through that Arnold Classic. And obviously there's the recognizable pundits that have said, had Hadi brought that package to the Mr. Olympia, it would have been a different outcome. Yeah. Now, I thought Hadi looked great. And obviously at the Arnold Classic, he looked that much better. So the scarier version of Hadi next to the best version of Derek, that is a bananas comparison. And to your point, there's weak points on both athletes, and then there's incredible strong points on both athletes. And it's just going to go down to them in my eyes. And there's no disrespect against the other guys. I just think that they're at a little bit of a different level to everybody from third down. And it's going to be who brings that best version. I know it kind of sounds like cliche, right? But we can all see, I've been watching both these guys training. Both of them are hungry. Both of them are training hard and heavy. And both of them are zoned in. I haven't had the chance, obviously, to speak to Hadi, but I have spoke to Derek. And with the new addition this year with the baby, that could be one of two things. One that kind of buries you into that fatherhood element, or you embrace that and it becomes part of your day, part of your new, structured element to the Mr. Olympia, and it's a motivational factor. That was the case for me when I found out my wife was pregnant. I found something in my head, that extra gear, just finding out she was pregnant. And then when Adi came to this, came into this world, I held her, and it was another gear that I didn't even know that I could even factor and find. So Derek this year with the baby, along with Chris Bumstead, that's a whole new animal of athletes going into the show. And I truly believe that Derek is now putting the extra work in to make sure that conversation ends on stage. And, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I'm not one to mumble my words, but when I'm faced with that in my head, I'm in my head legitimately trying to give you an answer. And it's tough because they're both incredible athletes.
This is what I want to see. We won't know until they get on stage. Muscle maturity, detail, This is what Hadi has over. It's this area, the chest, the shoulders, the arms. With Hadi, you see every little fiber, every little detail. Derek, I have not seen that. We call that muscle maturity. And I don't know if that's really something, a quality that is attained over time, or if that's more of a genetic thing, because you had all that detail when you were a 19, 20-year-old junior, from what I remember. You became a bigger version of that, and you became more detailed. But I saw plenty of detail in every muscle group on your physique when you were a junior, long before you even got your pro card. So I don't know if this is something we're going to see more of in Derek this year, because he has had another year, and he's very young to the sport. He's only really been training seriously for something like 10 years, if that. People forget how young and inexperienced relatively is to Hadi. Have you seen that quality with people improve over a year's time, 2 years' time in the past with other athletes?
That's a good question. And I would say on a ratio, it would lean more towards no. Because when you're kind of grainy, you've got that skin deposition. You know, you look at an early Branch Warren. That guy had that gnarly look to him at a very young age. And as that muscle got denser, that skin wrapped just as crazier around his physique, you know. So, but then the bubbly flow of athletes, you know, you can do the same comparison with Keon and Sean. Sean is just an absolute freak, a hard rock. And Keon just has that crazy bubbly muscle that is just, you can't distract your eye from. So, and then the same thing with Sean with his crazy conditioning. So in open class, I feel it's the same game where you got this crazy dense looking, crazy muscle, thick. And then you've got that freakish, bubbly look with Derek, with wild lat incision, small waist, you know. So it's again, it's all going down on the Mr. Olympia weekend, and that's probably one of the most exciting things, is that we all can speculate until the day of the show, and then we can hopefully then all agree after prejudging. But that's the beautiful thing about 2 days too. If you're still not made your mind up and it's still close, you got an extra day to make a decision.
So this is the guy they were all talking about, of course, Andrew Jack. He's a pretty new pro. He turned pro in 2022. This will be his third Olympia. He did have an off season finally and put on a little bit of much needed size because he's so tall. He's 6'2".
Yeah,
Guys like me and you, we really look up to guys like Andrew. And he put the size on. This isn't the greatest footage, but people are talking about him as somebody who could take as high as third, which he's going to have to get past another really good tall guy, Samson Dauda. I think the battle for third right now is between Andrew Jack and Samson Dauda. Samson, a bigger guy, if you more bubbly, more thick. Andrew, again, these long arms and legs, but what a beautiful physique.
Beautiful.
I don't know I would never want to judge the Mr. Olympia because there's too many tough calls to make. But that's, how do you see Andrew falling into the mix? Could he be as high as third? He's been fifth last year. I mean, he's going nowhere but up as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
Andrew's had an incredible 24 season. He came in, I think, close to 300 pounds for this Texas show, and everybody was, is that a good 300 pounds? I think it was 290 something maybe.
Yeah.
And obviously you can see what he looks like on this stage right now. He made the improvements. He had his off season, which he never really had before. This guy now truly believes that he could be a front runner in any show he competes in. Now, at the Mr. Olympia, is he going to be the shock of the show, or is he going to fall in that top five? I feel one of Andrew's kind of kryptonites is his conditioning, right? Because he has all that muscle, all that beautiful flow. And if he can just marry that into a crazy cartoon physique for the Mr. Olympia, and I think that third place is his. But again, Samson is another beast, right? And again, I've seen this guy go from fan of the expo to Mr. Olympia stage. Truly a remarkable story. Has his ups and downs, but no, that's the motivation for him to be where he's at. He's tasted victory. He knows that he has a shot to win in Mr. Olympia. Has he made the improvements to push any of them top two guys? I don't know, but I definitely feel it's going to be more of a battle out of him and Andrew in that third spot if I'm sitting in the chair I'm in right now. Of course, come close to the show, me and you might see something different, but as we're 2 months away. This is where I see that third spot mixing it up.
Yeah, I mean, in Samson, I've never seen the condition of him that I really wanted to see yet. And if he brings that this year, who knows what could happen. I mean, again, I love all my short kings because I'm 5'7". But people have been saying once these tall guys get their shit together, the short guys are in big, big trouble. And maybe this is that year. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, I have a saying that I've coined off somebody else, but a good tall guy will always beat a good short guy. Oh. And I think that would be the case here with Andrew, since he has that flow and muscle groups that flow top to bottom. Most tall guys have more lengthier, skinnier legs, no sweeps.
Yeah.
But Andrew certainly does not lack anything in that leg department. So he's just a beautiful physique. Obviously he's been given the nickname Mona Lisa. I don't see the correlation between him and Mona Lisa, but I'm thinking it's something in more of the artistic, beautiful world. And I'd attest to say he's got one of the prettiest physiques up there on stage in this Mr. Olympia show.
So next guy I want to talk about is not the prettiest physique, but boy, is he a beast. He's right there in Vegas. Nick Walker, who you've seen in person many, many times. He had the very unfortunate luck of tearing a hamstring 6 days out or something last year from the show. So he's had a whole year to really, get hungry, get focused. Some people think he can win. He's been as high as third before, and other people are sort of just writing him off because everyone's riding the Andrew Jack hype train, the Samson hype train. Derek and Hadi are obviously the two front runners. But Nick Walker, I don't think anybody should be counting this guy out. And again, Jay Cutler didn't have the prettiest physique, and he won the Olympia 4 times. It's not always about the most aesthetic look. It's not always about the biggest. The best physique on that day can win. And what do you think Nick Walker's chances are this year?
Well, Nick has got the nickname the Mutant for a reason, right? He is a freak of freaks. And coming from the fan base of the 90s and following the guys there, what was bodybuilding without the freaks, the Marcus Rules? All these guys back then that served a massive part of my magazine days were some of the biggest guys that I kind of looked up to. Nothing that I could attain, not my physique, but the freaks bring that it factor to bodybuilding, and Nick Walker is that guy. I would love to see Nick back in the mix and get up there in spots. I just feel like now with how the sport is changing. Sorry about my beeping. Okay. These are my staff telling me I had a 1 p.m. call 7 minutes ago. It's all good.
I'm gonna wrap it up.
When you're on with Ron, when you're on the Ron time, you're on report. We're rolling. We're rolling. Yeah. So with Nick, I've seen him come back from that hamstring injury. That devastated him that week of the Olympia. And of course, it's very hard to run from that when you're around fans and everyone wanted to see you on stage. And he was just so close, right? That there's nothing worse in my eyes to be so close to something and have it ripped away from you. When your heart and your head believes that this is the best version, you manifest whatever you've done to see yourself on stage, be not announced a certain way, and then that happened. So he handled it very well, and I'm very proud of him. I'm sure he had his ups and downs behind the scenes, but on that stage of being an athlete and being out and about and being in my gym, all the fans that came up to him and spoke to him, he always gave their time, never got annoyed, because you repeat the same thing over and over again, as I know with his tricep. But again, you've got fans for a reason, right? They're there. They've got the concern. You show that back and you just be a damn good pro. They're fans for life, and they'll remember that encounter. So now we're in 2024, and Nick has grown his fan base through all the social media he's been putting out, and he puts out a lot of content. He's been doing his chopping back and forth. Nick loves to hype up certain battles on stage, and again, that's what we want. Listen, we're not WWE, but you can do things where you can create hype. Let the fans then do their own talk. We've done it in the 212 class, and now the open class. The open class have always done it, but yeah. Nick knows how to get fan engagement, and I think he left a statement a couple of days ago where he feels that nobody is putting his name in a respectful manner because they're all talking about other athletes. And let me remind you who I am. I'm the mutant. So Nick is aggressive. He wants to be in the mix. He truly believes that he can win Mr. Olympia. He's told me to my face. So how can you knock a man down when you have that much confidence and you truly believe it, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing what he looks like on stage and causing a havoc up there with his crazy physique.
Just a couple more guys. Brandon Curry won the Olympia 5 years ago. Since then, he hasn't placed any lower than 4th, yet you don't hear much hype. You don't hear people talking about him, even when they're giving their top 5 predictions. Most people don't even have him in their top 5. He's over in Kuwait now doing exactly what he's done in all those years where he won and was 2nd and 3rd and 4th. Do you still think he has it in him? He's, I think, 42 or 43 years old. Some people say he's probably lost that fire by now, and I don't know if he has or hasn't. But where do you see him falling into this?
And Brandon is an absolute incredible champion. I truly think that he's probably one of the most disrespected ones too, because it's not like Brandon has done anything not to get this love. He's just not on anybody's radars, yet he always is in the mix. And he was very, again, steadfast on his goal to become Mr. Olympia. I remember the years being in Tennessee and training around him, that his name was always kind of disrespected on the bulletin boards. He's never going to win. He doesn't have legs. And he continued just to fight through all that negativity and achieve, the Mr. Olympia status. After that, we had COVID times and stuff like that. And all these names kind of get buried in the dust. And Brandon's is always that guy. So if I was to do a placement of where I see him in the mix right now, I wouldn't have Brandon in the top 3. Just I feel like there's new blood in, we're kind of that generation now where the old regime is now getting replaced with the new regime. And not that I'm saying Brandon is that journeyman, if you want to compare it to boxing. He's not that whatsoever. He's always going to be in the mix. But right now, I see other athletes that surpass Brandon on the chase for the title.
Very similar era with William Bonac was, 2nd place to Brandon. He took off an entire year, which usually doesn't bode well. Most people come back and they don't look anything like they used to. He looked pretty damn good when he won the show and qualified. He's another guy you don't hear anybody talking about as being a top 5. Yeah. I see predictions with him like 9th or 10th or maybe 12th or something like that. Based on the way he looked at the last couple shows this summer when he came back, do you still think he has the physique to crack top 5, top 6?
Well, William was one of them guys that has turned up in shows and has been pushed back, to 3rd place, and he's gone on and won it. I think he had one of his best outings on his last show that he won. I think he beat Nathan Diasha.
Yeah.
And it was a great look for William. So just after that win alone, William's name should be brought back into the mix of many different pundits and obviously worldwide bodybuilding experts, right?
Yeah.
But it isn't. So I don't really know, is that just an offstage thing, or is that just because fans don't see him breaking into that top 5? I'm now in one of them worlds where I see and hear more of the fans' perspective than I hear of the industry perspective. So it's what I hear and then what I hear from the industry experts are 2 different things. I don't think William is going to break into that top 5. It's going to be a tough top 5 for anybody to break into. But if he does, he's brought one of them packages that blew my mind, just like he did in his last outing. So, I wish William all the best. He's an Honor Classic winner. He's been in the top mix of the Mr. Olympia, yes. And another conversation, just like Brandon. Like, what is it? Is it the new blood? Is it the combination of social media and the likability? It's if you compare apples and oranges, if you compare Nick Walker and William Bonac and you put the results of both on the screen, you would more so lean to William Bonac based on results alone as being more of a favorite. Yet in comparison, are them 2 going to fight out for a position? But Nick gets so much more love for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
So
I get that. I kind of get it because he's got that freaky physique. He's young. He's brash. He's outspoken. I get that. Last guy I want to talk about is still a relatively young guy. He's been 4th place. Hunter Labrada. Oh, he gets a lot of flack because he's Lee Labrada's son, and people think he was born with a silver spoon and handed everything. And They think he gets gifts in his placings because of who his dad was. Like Lee Labrada runs the IFBB. He does not, obviously. He still has to qualify, which I don't see a problem with him doing that. He's got 2 more. He's doing the Italy show in a couple weeks, and if he doesn't win that for any weird reason, he's still got the UK Pro right after that. So I'm pretty confident Hunter's getting to Olympia. He has switched from all the shakes and everything to more whole foods. I see a difference in the quality, the muscularity, the physique. He's another one. It's going to be tough for him this year. We have some amazing talent. Does he have a chance to land in that top 5?
Yeah, there's a few athletes that I'm been very impressed with this year. So the question was, what athlete would I land in the top 5? Which one was that question? Well,
Hunter.
Sorry. I was looking at my list right here, and when you said that, I was like, Hunter is not qualified, because I have I just pulled up my qualification list. It blows my mind.
He's not.
Wow. So I have no issues in seeing Hunter qualify in his first outing, like you said, Italy. Yeah. If for whatever reason somebody turns up there and he goes on to the UK, he will be at that Mr. Olympia in October. Hunter's really impressed me recently. He's put some great photos out, and much improved Hunter Labrada from last year. To your point, I know he was drinking a lot of shakes. He's had a lot of GI issues, which I can relate to, and he reverted to doing the shakes. I put my hand up. I was there as well. But you just find a way of doing it, right? So if he's been able to now sort these stomach issues out and he's converted over to whole foods, that is a result, it's a scary thing. And also to your point, where any athlete in any different sport, if their father is a great athlete or has had success in that sport, no matter what it is, you will always be compared to your dad. And if your dad is somebody that has created massive ripples in that sport, it's a very hard thing for you to hear, because that's not you. You put in that work. Your dad doesn't do that work. He donated something to your mom many years ago that created you, and you chose the same path as your dad. And knowing that undertaking alone is tough, but then to face that battle in the comment sections and then just put it into your training, I think Hunter right now is going to be one of them dynasties that sits right next to his dad's accomplishments. Obviously we know Lee Labrada from the magazine era. He's the legend. His legacy is very lengthy and long, but now you see Hunter, who has the combination of both genetics, his mum, who's tall, and his dad's bodybuilding side of things, and you've created this specimen who has been incredibly improving every single year and every show he's ever done, and he's hungry to continue the Lee Labrada, Hunter Labrada legacy as not just his dad but his own too.
Right on. Well, man, you have been very generous with your time. I made you late for some important call, I'm sure. So guys, I thank you so much. 7-time Olympia 212 champion. If you're in Las Vegas, I don't even have to tell you, you're going to want to go to Dragon Lair anyway. I did get to train there a couple years ago. Incredible atmosphere, amazing equipment. I wish if I lived in Vegas, I would be there every damn day for 4 hours. Wouldn't want to leave. So that's it, man. Thank you so much, Flex.
I appreciate it, man. As always, Ron.
Guys, subscribe, like, share, ring that bell. And of course, Olympia weekend coming up. You'll be at the Dragon Lair. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching Ronline Report with this man, the legendary Flex Lewis. We'll see you next time.